The first time I saw it, it wasn't a flicker, not a trick of the light, but a ripple. A silent, imperceptible tremor across the surface of my own reflection, a fleeting shadow where there should have been none. It was gone in an instant, yet it left a cold, unsettling knot in my stomach. A knot that would only tighten, day by terrifying day. Moving into the old house was meant to be a fresh start. A quiet, isolated place nestled amongst forgotten woods, a world away from the city's ceaseless hum. It was dusty, creaking, and filled with the echoes of lives long past, but I loved it. The imperfections were charming, the solitude a balm. The only real luxury I allowed myself after settling in was a visit to a local antique dealer, a man who peddled in forgotten histories and curious relics. That's where I found it. A magnificent mirror, easily 7 feet tall, framed in what appeared to be dark, polished obsidian, intricately carved with swirling, almost hypnotic patterns. It wasn't cheap, but its presence was undeniable, a dark jewel amongst the clutter. I had it painstakingly transported and positioned it in the main hall, directly opposite the grand staircase. It immediately commanded the space, its dark, reflective surface a profound void that seemed to absorb all the light in the room, yet somehow still brilliantly reflected every detail. My new home, with its high ceilings and hushed atmosphere, felt complete. For weeks, it was just a beautiful, imposing piece of art, a focal point that often drew my gaze, admiring its craftsmanship, my own image a fleeting inhabitant of its obsidian depths. Then came the moments. The first time, I was walking past, caught a glimpse of myself and swore my reflection lingered for a fraction of a second too long, as if still gazing after me even after my real body had moved on. I dismissed it as tired eyes, a trick of the peripheral vision. But it happened again. And again. Each time, barely perceptible, like a stutter in time or a momentary defiance of physics. I'd turn back sharply, only to find my reflection mirroring my own confused expression perfectly. There was nothing there. Just me. Always just me. But the room reflected in the mirror started to change. Subtly, at first. A cushion on the sofa would appear slightly disarranged when I knew I'd smoothed it. A book on the coffee table might be open to a different page. Sometimes, the lighting in the reflected room would seem dimmer, colder, than the real space I occupied. I'd check, of course. The cushion would be perfect, the book closed, the light exactly as I left it. The mirror's reality was diverging from my own, by mere inches, by subtle shades, but diverging nonetheless. The real terror began when the reflection started to feel aware. I'd catch my reflection's eyes, and they would seem to hold an unsettling stillness, a conscious observation that didn't quite match my own thoughts. It was like looking into the eyes of a stranger, one who knew more about me than I knew about myself. I found myself hesitating before passing the mirror, a prickle of unease crawling up my spine, as if I were about to disturb something or be judged by it. The mirror wasn't merely reflecting anymore, it was watching. One evening, as twilight bled through the tall windows, painting the hall in long, purple shadows, I saw it. A fleeting, blurred shape behind my own reflection. Gaunt. Shadowy. It was there, for less than a breath, a silent, spectral presence in the reflected hallway. My heart hammered against my ribs. I whirled around, scanning the empty hall, my breath catching in my throat. Nothing. Just the fading light, the familiar dust motes. But when I dared to look back at the mirror, my reflected self was still staring, but its eyes, for a split second, were wide with a terror that felt entirely alien to my own. Sleep became a luxury. I'd wake in the dead of night, certain I heard faint whispers drifting from the hall, hushed and indecipherable. My reflection in the mirror began to change more profoundly. The eyes, once simply unsettling, now seemed deeper, darker, hollowed. My mouth, in the glass, would sometimes twist into a slight, unnatural smile, a hint of something cold and knowing, a smile I knew I wasn't making. It wasn't me anymore. Not entirely. It was a subtle, insidious transformation, replacing my familiar face with a distorted echo, a mask that was almost, but not quite mine. Desperate for answers, I started researching the house, its former owners, anything that might explain the mirror. I found old newspaper clippings in the local archives, strange disappearances, unexplained illnesses, a chilling string of suicides amongst previous occupants. Each article hinted at a prevailing dread, a slow descent into madness, often accompanied by an obsession with a particular antique. The articles mentioned a dark, ornate-looking glass in the inventory of one victim's estate, noted for its unusual size and obsidian frame. Then, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the attic, I found a leather-bound journal. The brittle pages, yellowed with age, chronicled the tormented last days of a woman named Eleanor, one of the former owners. Her elegant script grew frantic, erratic, describing her reflection, becoming a presence, a silent companion, that grew bolder, more demanding. "It watches me," she had scrawled, the ink smudged with what might have been tears. "It shows me things, horrors beyond this world. And it wants me to join it." The final entry was a single, terrifying phrase, "It smiles." And I hear its voice now from within the glass. I stood before the mirror, the journal falling from my trembling hands. My reflection was no longer my own. It was a gaunt, skeletal figure, its skin like parchment stretched over bone, its eyes sunken and black pits of despair. Its mouth, wide and ragged, stretched into a horrific, silent scream that mirrored Eleanor's final words. But it wasn't screaming. It was smiling. A terrible, knowing smile. And as I watched, unable to tear my gaze away, its spectral hand slowly, deliberately, pressed against the cold glass, beckoning me closer, its eyes burning with an ancient hunger. The reflected room behind it was a decaying, twisted mockery of my home, a desolate wasteland where shadows writhed and moaned. I felt a cold, crushing weight on my chest, a desperate, undeniable pull towards the dark, abyssal depths of the Obsidian. I don't know how long I stood there, trapped. The mirror never lets me leave its sight now. It watches, always. And sometimes, when the house is silent, I feel its presence behind me, reflected in the glass, its cold breath on my neck. It smiles, and I feel myself fading, dissolving into its terrible beauty. Perhaps you felt a chill, a whisper in the dark, a question about what lies beyond your own reflection. If you have, perhaps it's time to face those questions and subscribe to Dark Stories for more unsettling tales like this one. Just be careful what you stare into. You might find it staring back.